Spoiler alert, Popstep will turn evil in the later stages of My Hero Academia, Vigilantes, and become Koichi Himawari's enemy. The main reason for this is that Koichi has never truly valued Popstep. After going through multiple battles together, Popstep has developed feelings for Koichi. Additionally, since Koichi saved her when she was a child, it can be said that if Koichi had shown even a hint of closeness toward Popstep, she would have confessed her feelings to him immediately. But in reality, a senior female classmate appeared by Koichi's side. Not only was she good-looking, but she also had feelings for Koichi. She often interacted with him and even gave him a scarf. Koichi did not refuse. Furthermore, Koichi even neglected Popstep because of this senior. At the same time, Popstep's idol career hit a set under pressure from multiple aspects. 6, the final boss of My Hero Academia, Vigilantes, exploited the opportunity. He pretended to be Popstep's fan, approached her step by step, and eventually succeeded in gaining her trust. He even convinced her to write a song for him. After gaining her trust, 6 implanted Queen Bee, the female villain who appeared in the 3rd episode and was previously defeated, into Popstep's eye. In the end, Bee-Pop, representing chaos and violence, was born. However, after learning about Popstep's turn to evil, Koichi finally understood his true feelings. He not only desperately searches for her whereabouts, but is even willing to go against professional heroes for Popstep. But the price is that Popstep permanently loses one eye in this incident. Perhaps if Koichi had realized his feelings for Popstep earlier, she would not have suffered such harm. How did he do it? He clearly doesn't have any quirk, yet he was still able to defeat the enemy who had drunk the enhancement potion in the battle. This enemy could even concentrate his power in one place and unleash an explosion during the battle. But Knuckle Duster, relying on his brute strength, forcefully withstood his attack, and by relying on his long-term battle experience, he quickly figured out how to fight. When this enhanced enemy concentrated his power in one place, although his destructive power was very strong, his movement speed was extremely slow. Knuckle Duster seized this opportunity and killed him with a single blow. If some special effects were added to this move, it could be said to be exactly the same, All Might's Texas Smash. And this is not Knuckle Duster's limit. In the subsequent conversation with Koichi noticed that when Knuckle Duster was fighting, in order to prevent the enemy from dying directly, he would deliberately hold back his strength when striking. He may seem like a rough and tough man, but in fact, he is a meticulous and gentle person inside. Knuckle Duster is really too perfect, and Knuckle Duster actually used to have a quirk and had been a professional hero before. His hero name was O'Clock. The ability of his quirk was to accelerate his thinking. Everything around him would slow down. With this move, his battles were basically quick victories. However, Knuckle Duster thinks that his former self wasn't really a hero at all. He was just an ordinary person doing a job for a salary. After becoming an illegal hero, Knuckle Duster truly awakened the hero's heart within himself. It can be said that Knuckle Duster, who has now lost his quirk and is free from all kinds of professional restrictions, has already surpassed his former self as a hero in terms of strength. Is Tensei Ida really a professional hero? The strength he demonstrated is actually weaker than Koichi's. In fact, Tensei Ida ultimately failed to capture the enemy. It was precisely because of the limitations of being a professional hero. As a top-ranked professional hero, Tensei Ida confronts the enemy only after having surveyed the terrain in advance and having obtained accurate information. And in the 4th episode of My Hero Academia Vigilantes, the villain Bat that appeared had never shown the ability to fly before, so Tensei Ida's team also didn't scout the nearby terrain in advance. Coincidentally, as an illegal hero, Koichi spends most of his active time in the dark alleys, so he was able to anticipate Bat's movements and successfully capture him. And if you look closely, at the moment when Koichi tripped Bat, the action of breaking in time after sliding is a skill that Koichi mastered only after being taught by Tensei Ida. So it can be said that Tensei Ida also deserves credit for capturing Bat. As for why Tensei Ida didn't show strong offensive power during the battle with the enemy, this is because Tensei Ida is a hero who mainly focuses on rescuing people. The content of his daily training is mainly centered around speed. The purpose is to be able to reach the scene in the first place when a disaster occurs to rescue the trapped people. So in terms of offensive combat, he hasn't delved too deeply. However, if Tensei Ida had focused on developing his offensive skills, then the turbines on his arms should be able to play a greater role. Just imagine a super fast hand blade striking directly down. The power of this would definitely not be inferior to All Might's. And in that case, when Tensei Ida faced the hero killer, he probably wouldn't have lost his legs either. Deku finally loses One for All. In reality, it is to set the stage for a sequel. In the final battle of My Hero Academia, Deku had not actually fully mastered One for All. He was still only able to unleash 100% of his power when using specific moves. But even so, the power Deku released was on par with All Might. The 120% One for All released during the final battle even surpassed him. And this was achieved by Deku while he was still just a high school student. So if Deku had not lost One for All at the end and continued to train for 8 years, I guarantee that the title of #1 hero would have always belonged to Deku, and there would have been no criminals left in the entire world, because what awaited these criminals would be a being more terrifying than All Might at his peak. Or to allow the story to continue developing, the author had to make Deku lose the power of One for All. There is another reason besides this. Deku losing One for All fits the overall tone of the My Hero Academia story. My Hero Academia has never been a story about quirks being supreme. It is a story about how even if you have no power, you can still become a hero in others' hearts. For example, Mirio is a typical representative of developing the weakest quirk into the strongest one. So at the end of the story, he became the #1 professional hero, and the one for all used by Deku, after all, was obtained from others. When All for One dies at the end, this power naturally has no need to exist anymore. Deku wants to become a true hero. He can only rely on his own strength. Having a quirk in this world is completely a kind of torture. In My Hero Academia, most people are born with a quirk, but in order to prevent society from collapsing because of it, the use of quirks is actually very strict. Take Koichi, the protagonist of the Illegal Heroes, for example. In the manga, when he used his quirk to get around, he was stopped by the police. The reason was that he used his quirk without permission, and this rule even professional heroes can't break. Bakugo once used his quirk to get around. After being seen by the police, he was not only stopped, but his movements were even restricted. It was necessary for his guardian or a teacher from UA High School to come and claim him before he could be taken away. However, in fact, this regulation is still relatively lenient. In most cases, even if caught by the police, it's just a verbal admonition, and there won't be any substantial punishment. And as long as when you use your quirk, you don't affect others, you won't be stopped either. For example, when you go out, if your mobile phone accidentally falls to the ground and you instinctively use your quirk to suck it back, you won't be punished for this. However, if there are special circumstances and you have to use your quirk on the street on a large scale, then you need to apply for a professional quirk use permit. The reason why professional heroes can really use their quirks to save people is that they have obtained this permit. In addition to this, as long as you get the corresponding professional permit, you can also use your quirk for other jobs. For example, using your quirk to carry goods on a construction site, or using your quirk to clean up the garbage on the ground, and so on. He's been nerfed way too bad. Koichi in the manga version is way more powerful than the animated one. When Koichi in the manga meets an enemy, he thinks about their next move first before making different judgments. Like in the first episode when he ran into Soga Kugasaki, Koichi knelt down in a second, because he knew damn well someone who tells others to kneel all the time would kick him right after he knelt. So he dodged immediately. In the anime version, they cut Koichi's inner thoughts. Just changed it to Koichi instinctively dodging enemy attacks. Also in the first episode when Koichi was prepping to turn around and save Pop, the manga showed he'd already simulated in his head using his quirk to trip the enemy and then grab the third person. Even after the rescue failed, Koichi complained that even in this age of professional heroes, evil still pops up where the light don't reach. And this idea matches what Knuckle Duster said later. The hero system can't handle sudden enemies, so illegal heroes are a must. But the anime didn't include this part because of time. So when Koichi teams up with Knuckle Duster later and becomes an illegal hero, it feels super forced. Looking at how they've cut so much inner dialogue in these first 4 episodes, if the production team doesn't fix this, the rating for My Hero Academia Vigilantes might keep dropping. After all, Koichi's inner thoughts in the middle and later parts are definitely the biggest highlight of the show.